The Omega of all wars. I kicked the door, it didn't give, so I held it along with two things on the axe. I raised my flashlight and tried to cut through the thick soap swallowing the outlines of the furniture in the hall. In the dense smoke, the beam looked like a fat laser from some sci-fi movie. I moved through the apartment fast, looking for anything I could find. It was empty. Nothing was burning inside, only some of the plastic fixtures had warped in the heat. I went back out in the corridor. The smoke there was a little thinner than inside the abandoned apartment I had just left. It was rushing out through the broken windows, forming an enormous cloud above the building. If the 1,001 fires had not still been smoldering on the floors below us, the air in the corridor would have cleared in a few minutes. As it was, larger and smaller threads of smoke kept pouring from under doors, from service shafts, and from every other crack, which meant I still couldn't take off the mask I hated. Not unless I wanted to suffocate. "Find anything?" asked the cop in a mask, stepping out of the apartment opposite the one I just searched. Like me, he held a flashlight in one hand. In the other, he had a pistol. He could see his fingers itching. He was hoping he would get a chance to use it. No, if he stayed here as done without a mask, he'd have choked if he didn't roast first. I repeated what I had already tried to explain to the cops several times. What I basically meant was, stop getting in the way, this is our job. If the fucking arsonist that stayed in here, he was dead. So the cops had no business being here until we finished ours. The cops, on the other hand, thought we should clear out and let them search properly, guns ready to fire. So, in a compromise neither side liked much, we moved in pairs. "I won't believe it until I see his body," the cop growled. He was real pissed off. Well, so was I. I think all of us searching that smoldering ruin, firefighters and cops alike, were furious. The people who had been sleeping peacefully here a few hours ago, or watching TV, were demonstrating their outrage outside a building where every angry gesture they made had several TV cameras tracking it. I touched the next door carefully, then the handle. It didn't feel warm. At least I couldn't feel it through the gloves, so I tried to open it carefully. Locked again. I kicked just below the lock and the door kindly opened for me. Was getting good at this. A cloud of black smoke rolled out of the apartment, and tiny sparks blinked in the darkness. The fire from the lower floors had somehow made its way up here, probably along the wiring, though it had not managed to do much damage. By opening the door, I gave it a little of the oxygen it needed, and it flared again. "Water here!" I shouted, stepping aside. Mark and Ernest trotted over with the hose and smothered the flames with a stream of water. "2 more floors," the cop said. When we arrived at the fire, the lower part of the 20-story building was in flames. I had no idea how something like that could happen, but the chief explained it quickly. "Arsonist" was the single word he gave us by the way of greeting. Then he started putting us to work. I pieced together what had actually happened from snatches of conversation and swearing over the radio once we already had most of the fire under control. Someone, described by a witness as a guy of about 25, dressed all in black, possibly with unspecified number of accomplices, has placed several incendiary charges around the building. If the janitor who suffered from insomnia had not decided to tinker with a faulty elevator instead of watching TV, most of the people living inside wouldn't have escaped in time. The whole building would have gone up like a candle. As it was, the old man in the elevator machine room on the top floor startled the black cat man while he was arranging something very suspicious. I guess the old guy watched a lot of movies, or who knows, maybe he was a prior service, but all he needed was one look to understand what those little packages meant. He slammed the door, turned the key, and started screaming into his cell phone. Might have been just him, might have been the panic that started in the building, but it forced the arsonist to detonate the charges he had already placed in the basement and apparently at various points in the stairwells. A few minutes later, the cops arrived, then the reporters, and finally us. Most of the people had managed to get out of the building. The cops, accompanied by the angry old janitor, were checking everyone leaving, but they didn't find the arsonist. He had either left before them or got stuck in the building. So, well, that was the situation. The battlefield. right before I died for the first time. I didn't like an apartment from the start. The door was unlocked and open, and it was obvious the owner had grabbed whatever he could and gotten out fast. I shone my flashlight around, looking for whatever it was that had set my nerves on edge. I had always trusted my instincts. I had heard it advice often enough from Dad when I was a little boy. Trust your instincts. But when I found nothing, I finally just shrugged and turned to move on to the next apartment. I don't know what warned me. I couldn't have heard him. Maybe it really was that weird instinct I inherited from Dad. I turned and barely dodged the knife blade. He was a kid, even younger than me. All in black, his mouth smeared with a soot and a respirator over his face. There was madness in his eyes. Happy madness. You killed the fire. He hissed and slashed with the knife again. Maniac. All I had to do was back up a few steps, jump in the recorder and shout. There were at least 3 cops in the hallway. They would have gladly dealt with him, but instead, instinct, whatever I had inherited from Dad, took over. I yelled and swung the axe upward. He jumped back, but I spun the axe over my head like my favorite comic book hero slaying and struck again. The blade hit his left shoulder, and a bit deep into his body. Die, asshole, I snarled. Die in pain. I heard shuffling moving behind me. The others were already coming. I still don't know whether they made it in time. I hope not, because the wounded, bleeding asshole cackled and detonated the bomb he had on his body. And that was how I died for the first time. It was quick. It didn't even hurt. There was no time for the pain. I barely registered a flash and strange sensation as my body was torn into a million little pieces. I was lying in the mud, wet, thin, stinking mud. My head was buried in it, and the sticky mass was plugging the air intake of my mask, making it really hard to breathe. The first thought I had was wondering where the hell had I gotten drunk enough to end up in a ditch. My whole body hurt. There were strange noises coming from everywhere, and the hangover was trying to kill me, so for a moment I thought about just lying there. But then I tried to take another breath and started to choke, so I forced myself to lift my head. The mud released me with a wet smack, and suddenly, all of my memories came back. I had died, and it seemed I had gone to hell. It was terribly muddy, loud, and foul-smelling. I wiped the whizzer of my mask with my hand, but it only made it worse. Everywhere, I mean really everywhere, around me I saw human figures, filthy, coated in the same mud as me. Nothing but mud and bodies, running or lying everywhere, lit by a weak red glow radiating from a strange sky. The light was the color of blood. People were running back and forth, waving at one another and shouting. I couldn't understand them. Where was I? Was this really hell? Here's another one! Someone thundered above my head and grabbed me by the shoulder. He held me to my feet with ease. I tightened my grip on the axe. I still had it with me. I had no idea what to do. Hell, what kind of weird armor is this? What's he got, an axe? Where the hell did he came from? The voice continued in a strange, throaty accent. A powerful hand shook me. Come on, buddy, you understand me. Wake the fake up. You've slept enough. He turned me to face him. He was a huge man wearing a horned helmet on his head, something like armor on his body, and his face was covered with a web of half-healed scars. In his left hand he held a large axe with a blade shaped like a butterfly wings. His blond beard was smeared with mud, just like the rest of him. A Viking, I realized with a start. I could have sworn I had seen one exactly like him in some old movie. Which was, of course, well, about the only source of my knowledge about Vikings. Well, say something, man, I haven't got all day. I turned a mask to my face and sucked in air. Where am I? I shouted at him. Ha ha ha! A Yank.
I said so, even it looks damn strange. Welcome to hell, buddy, and you landed in the best part.
Olaf, stop blustering and move yourself. Another figure lisped at us as he rushed past. He wore a greenish military uniform and carried a small shovel in one hand.
They here, Donnerwetter!
The man with the shovel shouted and broke into a run. I managed to pick out the growling sound of an engine from the hellish cacophony. It was approaching fast, somewhere above us.
Come on.
The Viking spot dragged me after him.
I hope you know how to swing that axe, you'll need it. I'll explain everything later, the parts you don't figure yourself.
Where the fuck am I? What the hell is happening?
Told you already in hell, according to some. Watch out!
He shot me hard and jumped away. The roar of the engine swept down from the bloody sky. I tried to dig myself out of the mud where the Viking had knocked me, and got onto all fours. Fortunately, I failed. I heard a loud splat and a roar of "down." The blast wave of the explosion drove me deep into the stinking mud. I started choking again. The sticky shit didn't want to let me go. I was freed only when the Viking hand grabbed me by the hair and brutally hauled me up. I started coughing. I wanted to vomit, but couldn't.
Get it together, man, and move. That bastard will be back any moment.
Suddenly something exploded in the air nearby.
Oh, not at least not for a while. Come on, don't lose the axe. Your mask is here.
Shoved it into my hand. Mechanically, I pushed it into the case on my belt. The Viking grabbed my arm and ran. He was dragging me forward toward the loudest noise. When I tripped over the severed, bloodied arm of the German who had been rushing us along earlier, I had to fight to keep the contents of my stomach inside. The fingers still clutched the handle of the shovel.
Oh, poor Hans, that must have pissed him off,
Olaf remarked.
Don't mind him, you'll see him again.
What the fuck is happening here? I repeated.
War Dumba's never seen one.
What goddamn war? The man running beside us, who looked like a dirty Native American from a spaghetti western, hissed something at us and made an eloquent gesture with his axe, or was it a tomahawk?
Big Feet is right, shut him out and come on. You got a name.
Patrick, are you going to fucking tell me? Then I saw it for myself. The roaring intensified. A line of bloodied figures burst out of the darkness. It looked like something from a horror movie, one of the zombie ones. Except the undead in those always just shuffled slowly around. Here they were running, waving weapons and screaming. Several shots thundered for a group ahead of us, and a few attacks fell. They were disgusting, filthy. I hated them all. I wanted to tear them apart with my bare hands. They were even more revolting than the fucking arsonist who had started all this. I screamed wordlessly.
Ah, that's it, Pat. I like it. Now show me what you can do with that axe. Ha 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 ha.
All of the Viking let me go and charged. He forced his way through the group of people ahead of us. As I pushed after him, one part of my brain was filling the figures around us into categories from old movies and half-remembered history lessons. The short, leggy man drawing a bow had to be a Mongol. That one looked like a Roman gladiator. Beside him were two Native Americans, another man in a medieval armor, and behind them in dirty rags a bearded man loading a musket.
Line, damn it! Hold the line here! Shields here!
Well, there were a few more of those repulsive sons of bitches than there were offs. I had taken my place among the strange armed figures, trusting them like they were my brothers. All it took was a common enemy. Although the tiny piece of my brain that was still working logically tried to convince me I had no reason to hate the others so much, it had no chance. I was seeing red. Fortunately, none of them had firearms. I could see they were the same mismatched mixture as the people around me, but they were somehow different, wild. The man charging in the first rank wearing a torn uniform and a fur hat with a red star on it, aiming a bayonet at me that he held in his hand, looked almost the same as the men beside me. They were both screaming "Hurrah!" But the one beside me was ours, and the other was the enemy. To this day I don't understand how it works, but I simply knew it immediately. Among our fighters were several men with shields trying, under Olaf's roaring, to form something like a line, the kind I had seen on TV. But the moment the two humans' mobs collided, all tactics were forgotten. The first enemy nearly got me. His short curved saber missed only because an arrow shot over my shoulder buried itself into his throat. His war cry, maybe something from somewhere in the Far East, turned into a bubbling gurgle. I swung the axe and killed my second man with a blow to the temple. I kicked his body and pulled the axe free. I spun it struck, then struck again. After the fourth blow, the head of Japanese-looking man collapsed into mush. I stepped forward and realized I was dragging my left leg and I couldn't feel it. I looked down and saw blood pouring from the split meat. At least I realized with a sweet smell drifting everywhere it was. It was the smell of blood. I don't remember much from my first battle anymore. I think I hacked down several more enemies, standing with my weight on my right leg and chopping around me like a lumberjack, until a man with a ferret face drove a rapier into my heart, and I died for the second time. As far as I can tell from what I remember, the sharp pain in my chest caused by the narrow blade seamlessly turned into a dull, pulsing pressure as someone pounded on my chest. I opened my eyes and almost died of a shock all over again. "Haven't seen a firefighter around here in a long time," said a man grinning down at me, with an enormous mustache and a green scarf on his head. Suddenly, nothing hurt. He was a very capable doctor, at least Mom had always said so. Slowly, I stood up. "Normally they'd let you wake up by yourself, but there isn't much time, so I sped it up a little. Sorry. What's wrong? You're staring at me like you've seen a ghost." This marked a joke, one I guess had to be rather common here in hell. "You could say that, Dad," I said. I had seen that grin in a few photos, too. Sometimes I even told myself I remembered it, though I had barely been 5 when I saw him last, back in '71, before he left for another tour in Vietnam, one he didn't get back from. The grin froze on his face. "Patrick?" he asked after a moment. "It's me. You know, I always wanted to see you at least one more time, but I wasn't expecting this." "What, what about your mom?" "She's okay. Angry that she used to be, and she's put on a lot of weight, but she's doing pretty well." Dad swallowed and closed his eyes for a moment. Said nothing, because I had no idea what to say. "I'm proud of you, son," he said then. "Why?" I asked, confused. "I think you'll understand in time. I have to go. I need to make the rounds, check 2 more units before we move out again, then we'll talk. We have a lot to talk about." He stood and shouted, "Olaf!" I looked around. Finally, I began to notice something other than the face I knew from a few blurred memories and photographs. My comrades in arms were sitting in the mud all around me, some of them visibly badly wounded, several even lying dead on the ground, but the mood was cheerful. Only the terrible sting from the great bonfire spoiled it. A close look confirmed my first guess. There were pyres for our enemies. 2 of ours, armed with halberds, occasionally poked into the burning bodies. Guards stood around them.
Don't yell, man.
Olaf grumbled from nearby and slowly stood up.
What is it?
"You owe me a few favors, Olaf."
Yes, and
4 to be precise. "I'm transferring them here to this man, Patrick Ring Connor, my son."
oh fuck.
Yeah, well,
He does look like you, Ari. Okay. I'll keep an eye on him.
I have to go, but I'll come back soon. Dad turned to me and gripped my hand.
Hold on, son, and
He hesitated for a moment.
take this.
He unbuckled the holster with M1911 from his belt and handed it to me. "Ola will tell you how things work here. See you later." I watched him as he jogged away. He looked exactly like the pictures from Vietnam that his friends had given him. Tiger stripes, green scarf, medical pack, M16 in his hand.
Your old man must have loved you a hell of a lot when he was alive,
Olaf said thoughtfully.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have given you that picture. Value it, buddy.
What?
Oh, for fuck's sake, this eternal what of yours is starting to piss me off. Sit down, I'll tell you what's what. Now, we'll have to move soon anyway, unless I'm mistaken that rumble in the distance. That's an orderly preparation. Everybody's got a different opinion. Depends on what faith they followed when they were alive. To me, this is Ragnarok, or maybe the preparations for it, who knows. Ragnarok, you probably don't know.
The last battle. Norse mythology, I know a little.
No shit. Most youngs don't, and if they do, it's from some comic book.
Exactly, but Ragnarok is described a little differently there.
Welcome to the real stuff, buddy. Ha ha ha. It's a little different from what they've stuffed into me when I was young, but it looks like Ragnarok, doesn't it? True, no Valkyrie badge had shown up anywhere. I hadn't seen Odin. Thor's probably still getting drunk somewhere, but it's a proper war. Heroes, meaning us, fight the evil ones, meaning them, until we drop.
So we're dead? This is the afterlife.
Exactly. You croaked twice. I've done it 11 times. I know a few who stopped counting long ago. Only the first one counts, though. Here, dying is normal, and nobody worries much about it as long as you stay among your own. The rebirth is nasty as shit, but it's better than staying dead forever. Probably. Who knows, right?
Don't believe everything that pagan tells you, son. A deep voice said beside me. I jerked and turned. A man in priest cassock stood there, but he had a simple helmet on his head, a small shield strapped to one arm, and an enormous mace in the other hand. I am Father Thing. Since Connor is your father, I assume you are a Christian as well. No, I mean I was baptized, but I never really believed in God.
Oh, in an afterlife, I bet, and suddenly here you are. Ha ha! Hell of a surprise, isn't it?
As this pagan here says, you were wrong. We are in purgatory.
Listen, Padre, can't allow him to me, so stay out of it. Like I was telling you, Pat, everybody's got an opinion. The Padre here thinks the Christian God is testing us, and whoever proves to be a decent enough lad and works off his sins gets to go up somewhere and stick his ass on the clouds. I've never heard of anyone it happened to. I say we're in Ragnarok and we'll fight until the end of the world. Take your pick.
But the priest didn't let me finish.
Think, son. Look around you. You have been here only a short time, but soon perhaps you will understand why you are here and what your destiny is. We are in purgatory, atoning for our sins. We killed. In good faith, perhaps. Maybe even for a good reason. But one of the commandments says, Thou shalt not kill. Yet if we can cleanse our souls, even we may one day reach heaven. Remember the fate of your oath. If you wish to speak of this later, I am at your disposal. For now, I must move on, and I repeat, do not believe everything this pagan tells you. Fare thee well. My head was spinning. Olaf smirked. Like I told you, everybody's got a different opinion. There are a few here who consider this paradise. Lots of enemies to kill and stuff.
Can you start again from the beginning, please? I just can't wrap my head around it.
Oh, I believe it. You sure look like it. So I'll try to make it as simple as I can. Everyone here is dead. You croak, you die. And exactly as you are, with whatever you've got on you, you come here. You fight. Your body or your kid dies 5 days later and maybe shows up here. Some of us have been here a hell of a long time. Now and then you even meet an ugly ape man. Your old man told me those are 20 or 30,000 years old. Pretty damn impressive.
And how long have you been here? You're a Viking, right? There must be 1,000 years.
Ah, well, I'm tempted to feed you some bullshit. But your dad would tear me a new one, so I've been here about 30 years. I'm not a real Viking, but my mother was from Norway, and she was always pushing all that old faith stuff into me. I ate it up, I loved it. Later, I even had my own Viking armor made, and a battle-ready axe, and all of that, which turned out to be a damn good idea.
So, Where are you actually from?
California. Good old shitty United States. Hollywood, to be precise, and don't you dare to lie.
You were an actor. I thought I'd seen you somewhere before.
Told you, don't you dare lie. Yeah, I played big evil assholes in the background and enjoyed it a lot. Sometimes I even had a line to speak. Told myself, at least this way I'm a warrior. And one day I heard some ruckus in the street, looked out of the window, saw some scum beating someone. I said, ah, ha, ha, I'll show them. Pulled on my costume, grabbed the axe, and I figured I'd scare the shit out of them. Well, it almost worked. Looked like they were going to run, then one of them pulled a gun. They put a few holes in me, but they got free of them, so I ended up here. Don't know how it's anywhere else, but I'm pretty satisfied. Could have been worse.
But why here?
Because only heroes who die in a battle end up here. Well, maybe not heroes exactly, but people who consider themselves the good guys and kill for some high purpose and so on. You must have done something like that yourself. And those who kill just for fun or for money and all that kind of thing. Those are the others. You met them already. Nobody knows why we stink so badly to each other and go for each other's throats the moment we meet, but that's just how it is. You'll get used to it soon enough, and before you ask where the rest end up, I hadn't got a clue. Now grab your rags and let's go, because I hear Honorbackers yelling. He's an old Nazi, but you can get along with him.
Nazi, as in real Nazi, but you said,
How he was convinced he was in the right. There are a few like that here, and it pisses them off no ends that most of their friends are on the side, and they have to fight alongside commies, pagans, and all sorts of those people. We're a mixed bag here, as you saw. Now move.
I'm coming. Olaf,
Yeah,
I suppose there's no way to get out of here.
you can get yourself burned or eaten by those bastards over there, but after a while you come back even then, and from what I've heard, it's no treat. You got this for life, buddy, or rather, for forever.
As we moved, we split into groups of 10. Olaf dragged me into a mixed squad he called his old gang. I vaguely remembered most of them from the first fight. A gloomy old knight in plate armor, 2 Native Americans, a brightly dressed bearded man with earrings and rings for his nose, an enormous black guy in a black t-shirt, 2 small Asian-looking men with bows, and then a man in strange polished armor with a spear, whom I couldn't not place until Olaf greeted him as that
Fucking hero from Thermopylae.
a Spartan. I stared. My mouth agape when the Greek, in almost fluent English, sent Olaf to a wide variety of obscene places to do a lot of anatomically impossible things. Why does almost everyone speak modern English? I asked Olaf after he announced to the others,
This here is little Connor, and his old man told me to keep an eye on him.
He turned to me and said,
Because most people here, at least on our side, are ours who got killed in World War II, so most of the veterans lack to. At least some of the English. Don't let yourself be fooled just because most of us in this gang are relics. Since the First World War, this place has changed a lot. There are plenty of guns on both sides, and those of us who arrived with a decent piece of iron are a little obsolete. But even so, we can still lay those bastards out nicely once we get close enough, close enough to smell that they've shit their pants. Move faster, you miserable lot, or we'll fall behind.
I'd prefer a machine gun, grumbled the black man walking just behind us. He was armed only with a knife, a chain wrapped around his waist, and a baseball bat. We were a truly bizarre combat unit. So a person comes here only with what he died with?
Oh yeah, exactly. You have to die with a weapon in your hand. It's damn lucky most of those fucking pilots arrive with a total wreck instead of an airplane, but even so, enough of them fly around here. Whatever happened right before you hit gets reset, so unless you took a direct hit, you won't get far. Anyway, I'm talking and forgetting to ask questions. You're a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
And what did you got with the axe? I'm guessing some bastard, right?
An arsonist. He set a building on fire. When I found him, he came at me, so...
You chopped him. Good work. You know how to swing it, that's important. Useful in the trenches, see?
Good fight today, said one of the Native Americans trotting beside me. Olaf called him Big Feeder, though everyone else called him Big Falcon. Very bad speeds there. He pointed towards the horizon with his stomach. Will be good massacre. Then a fight, and we go on. We hero. You soon too. Whiteface. He nudged me with his elbow. His friend grumbled, and with a happy expression he dug the tip of his spear into his forearm and it bled. The wound closed almost immediately. Miles and miles of trenches, crude wooden barriers, crowds of people of every possible race and culture, even some women, though not many. Stench, burning and blood, weapons. So many weapons. It was not only the smell of people, blood, and filth. That was nasty, but it paled beside the stench of repulsiveness drifting from the other side of the trenches. The enemy. We hated them, all of us. You could see it on everyone around, clenched teeth, angry looks, muttered curses, and the occasional expression of joy when one of our shells exploded on the enemy side of the fortification. Apparently some artilleryman had made it into the afterlife, Ragnarok, Purgatory, or whatever I ended up, along with his cannon. Or perhaps it was a mortar crewman, I don't know. I clenched my fist around the axe and tried to control the scorching hatred something had awakened in me. Easy. You'll get your fight in a minute. Even Olaf's humor had thinned near the enemy, turned sharper, crueler. For a moment it straightened, but when a bullet hissed over the trench, it ducked down again. Most fights happen in places like this. We push on them, they push on us. Now and then some group breaks through. Gets around the battlefield like today when you showed up. Soon somebody won't be able to stand it anymore and an attack will start us, so a few last things. Don't let anyone take anything you brought with you. Especially guard your old man's shooter. If something wears out, it'll be fine the next day. Try to collect the spent casing. By the next day, it'll be full again. Same if someone guts you, don't worry. Eventually you'll grow back somehow. You just can't fall into their hands. Always drag our wounded and our newly dead backward. Pass them to friends. If it's their wounded, burn them when you can. That shuts them down for a long time, sometimes maybe forever. Don't get captured, surrounded, or anything like that. They burn too. But much more often, they'll simply eat you. And then, that's probably the end for you. In battle, try to strike calm. I know that's not easy, but try. That's about all. He took a deep drink from the bottle at his side and handed it to me. I swallowed a bit of water and gave it back. What about food? You don't need to eat. Just drink. Plenty of water. Nothing better. It was actually in command. I mean, on our side. What? Well, this battlefield here is handled by Heracles. At least that's what he claims. Both that he commands and that he's a damn hero, though, as far as I remember, he was a made-up character. Maybe it's true, though. I've seen him tear a man apart with his bare hands, and he isn't stupid either. Well, otherwise, whoever's in charge of something, it always sorts itself out of one big anarchy. For now, remember that in our tent, I'm the loudest one shouting. Big, loud, wide mouth. Big Falcon nodded. Very loud, but those evil one fears. Maybe they don't know he only plays strongman when he's alive, like a child, play acting. But you in a good group. He patted my shoulder. Father of you, a good man. Big thundery falcon look after you, young one. Ha. Silence, thundered the gray-haired knight. Silence, you rebel. Heracles speaks. Even from a distance, Heracles looked imposing. He stood on top of some low-rise, surrounded by several men with shields who were covering him from the occasional enemy bullet. It was hard to make out much of his speech, but the essence was clear. Kill them. And then the hills began to move. Brown camouflage tarps slid up them, revealing tanks I remembered well from the TV news out of Iraq. Abrams tanks. Heracles leapt down and one soldier handed him something that looked like a large machine gun that must have been originally mounted on an APC or a helicopter and ran forward. Well, fuck me, tanks, Olaf shouted happily. I heard Earth supposedly sent us two, but I didn't believe it. Today we'll drive those bastards back at least 2 miles. The steel monsters carved their way across no man's land toward the enemy trenches. Our men in the first line started firing and running forward. Move up! Olaf screamed, but by then everyone was already in motion. We ran into the trench ahead of us, then the next and the next, until we reached the front line. Arrows and bullets were flying from the enemy trenches, but our people were already in the first line, and judging by the screams, they had started clearing it. A group of Marines, at least it looked like most of them were Marines, moved along our left, furiously firing various versions of M16s or older-looking rifles into the enemy trenches. Shots came from the opposite side of us as well, but nowhere near as often. My whole sight and perception of the world narrowed. I smelled their stink. I clenched my teeth and held my axe tight. Compared with the shriek of the machine gun, it seemed like a weak weapon, but once I jumped into the enemy trench, it no longer felt that way. I chopped savagely into a body leaning against the wall. It wore a police uniform and had plenty of holes in it already, but I made sure he was down by smashing his skull to pulp. Olaf landed heavily beside me. He had a great axe on his back. Instead, he carried a small shield and short little sword. Guess better suited for trench work. He ran into the communication trench toward the noise and the stench of the enemy. I rushed after him. Blood and brain matter dripped from the axe blade. Rifles were not much used in the trenches. Even the Marines and other modern gunmen moving with us fixed bayonets and used them almost more than they used their rifles. Whenever one of ours fell, we passed him backward together with his weapon. At most, someone might empty a magazine somewhere ahead before pressing the gun back into the dead man's hand. Enemy bodies we chopped to pieces because we were in a hurry. We fought our way through several trenches. I don't remember much of it. The full hour of the enemy was crushing. It turned me into an animal, forced me to growl and chop and kick. Most of the others were the same. In some cases, it became outright madness. The fragments of memory are too unclear and disconnected for me to retell them in detail. Chaos, screams, shots, blood, bodies torn apart. The roar of a tank somewhere to the left, and then suddenly calm. A relative calm.
They're running! Olaf's voice boomed. After them, we have to get as far as we can.
Wait! The Spartan Darwinistas stopped him.
Wait, Olaf, I don't like this.
I wiped blood from my eyes and then stooped on a tiptoe, trying to see more. The enemy really was withdrawing. They were not even taking cover, they were simply running, clear visible from our positions. A familiar body suddenly jumped from the trench. A big falcon dragged down the last enemy soldier, who was wearing a Wehrmacht uniform. In a flash, he separated the man's head from his body with his axe, and ran back to us with a trophy. The enemies simply kept running. They didn't even look back, though they must have heard him. Olaf shoved the ancient Greek warrior aside.
That really is fucking...
From somewhere in the enemy rear came a whistle, rapidly drawing closer.
Incoming! Get down!
We dropped to the ground and covered ourselves as best we could.
I hope it doesn't hit us. I hate the feeling when I'm torn to pieces.
I was sure the shell had already landed, but I still heard no explosion. Shouldn't it have gone off by now? I asked.
Should have. Maybe it was a dud.
Olaf said and got up. He looked behind us in the direction we had come from. Then he screamed with all his strength.
Gas, 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 fuck.
What are you talking, Olaf? I don't see anything. The Spartan snapped at me.
But I see a raptured canister of nerve agent. Everybody close your eyes. Try to breathe as little as possible and back. It'll land it close to us. Maybe it won't catch us back. Fuck, move.
Gas? I reached for the mask I still had on my belt and put it over my face. I was not sure if it could protect me against military nerve gas, but maybe.
Good, kid. If anything happens, it's on you. Try to drag us back. Those filthy swine will send a few men in mask here in a minute and my vision's coming back. Fuck, I can't see right. Here it comes.
Nerve gas is nasty shit, trust me. Or ask the other poor bastards who were unlucky enough. Men from my tent back then, for example. I tried to drag them back to our lines. First I supported them, then carried them. The fighting went quiet. Gas canisters had contaminated land as far as I could see. The cries of gas and help me soon died away. Then, exactly as Olive had predicted, a group of enemies arrived in gas masks. Most of them were soldiers from the First World War, men who had known gas while still alive. I played that, completely that, and jumped them only once they had passed me and were moving with the light towards the pile of my comrades. I caught them by surprise. The mask muffled my scream and did not give me enough air, but I screamed anyway and chopped and chopped. The first two fell before they could react. I smashed the next man's mask into his face with one swing. He began to scream in terror, but a blow from the blunt side of the axe crushed his face. I swung upward and drove the axe into the crotch of another. I reached for the large rifle he had dropped in his spasm of pain, grabbed it in my left hand, aimed at the next group of enemies, and fired. The recoil ripped the rifle from my grip, but another enemy fell. The others returned fire, but by then I was among them. I felt pain as several bullets bored into my body, but even so I kept chopping and smashing. I became a mad, bloodthirsty demon. I killed about 10 of them, before the poison that had entered my body through the wounds brought me down too. Or maybe it was the wounds themselves. Who knows? I died for the third time in a single day, but I had held the enemy in our section long enough for several of ours with masks to reach us and drag our bodies back. If they had come a little later, we would probably have ended up as an ash, or in the stomachs of enemies, who enthusiastically practiced cannibalism whenever they could. Although that day had looked promising, in the end we didn't break though by even a yard, Dad told me later, after he found me after the fight and brought me back to life again. That was my first day in this war. I remember the first one best. The ones after that I almost stopped counting. This war is the largest and longest that has ever been. It's the war that has lasted since the first human split another human's head open with a stone, and it will last as long as there is fighting on Earth. The Omega of all wars, as my friend Daronistus says. He first died defending the pass at Thermopylae against the Persians, including that one he's now sitting with over there, probably reminiscing together about what it was like when they were alive. So get a grip already, kid. Be glad you got here at a time when there isn't much fighting, and that you have a chance to prepare for what you'll be doing until this strange world ends. Maybe you'll be of some use to us here, in the place where everybody ends up. Everybody who kills and dies with a weapon in his hand. None of us knows for certain where we are, why we are here, or how to get out. We only know a few things. Those over there are the enemies. We have to kill them when we can. Burn their bodies and delay their resurrection as long as possible. We have to defend our fallen so the enemy doesn't burn them or even eat them as some of them do. If they are not too badly damaged, most of our comrades will come back to life by the next day and help us drive the enemy back or at least stop them from advancing. Do not let your weapon or your things out of your hands. If they're damaged, they will miraculously report themselves by the next day. Do not try to steal someone else's weapon. If he doesn't give it to you of his own free will, it will soon break, and without its rightful honor, it will not repair itself. Keeping enemy weapons is just as pointless. Eventually, they crumble to dust. Believe whatever you want. You will find plenty here who will try to convince you of their own theory how this place works. They will certainly descend on you soon, since there have been very few newcomers and potential converts in recent years. Wait, what's that medical technology of yours you told me about? But you'll handle it somehow, and at least you'll get to know the warriors a little. We are all warriors here. In the end, we are all the same, whether we wear rags, armor, uniforms, or a spacesuit. There are differences between a knife, an axe, a sword, a machine gun, and that little laser pistol of yours, but in the end, they are all weapons for killing enemies. Maybe you'll even find your aliens among the enemy ranks, who knows? No one has seen any yet, at least not that I've heard. Maybe you'll get a chance to even the score a little. So prepare yourself for the killing. Don't worry, you'll be good at it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And now let me sleep. I can feel in my bones that the battle is going to start soon. And it's going to be a big one.